Okay, you voted and I am delivering. Here is Caitlin B's guide to double penetration. Now, before you click away because you think I am about to suggest that you invite another man into your bedroom to have sex with your woman at the same time that you are having sex with her, I am not about to suggest that. I'm going to explain how to do that if you're into that kind of thing. But listen, double penetration is so much more than just two guys going at the same woman. In fact, double penetration may include things that you are already doing, and there are plenty of good reasons to try it out if you're not. You see, when it comes to DP, any kind of toy, finger, real human being can count as double penetration. I promise that I will not disappoint. Take a moment now to make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and that you have dinged the little bell, smash the bell, so that you will be notified every time I publish a video designed to help you have the best sex life ever. Okay, when it comes to double penetration, do not knock it until you try it. You and your woman could be missing out on all kinds of slightly kinky pleasure. And this includes activities ranging from a stray finger finding its way into an anus during penetration, all the way to inviting a stranger into your bedroom, or a trusted friend or confidant or whatever. The website kinkly.com defines double penetration as when two or more body parts or objects are inserted into the human body during foreplay or sexual intercourse. Double penetration often refers to having vaginal sex while inserting something such as a dildo anally or vice versa. However, it is not limited to those. It can include any combination of vaginal, oral, and anal penetration. So now that we've got that cleared up, why even talk about DP? Well, despite being a common fantasy and a super popular porn search, according to one study, only 2.9% of men and 1.2% of women have tried it, which is a real shame because it can feel really, really good. Let's start with the reasons that it feels good for her. See, women, in addition to having lots and lots and lots and lots of nerve endings in their vagina and their anus, also have something called the perineal sponge, sometimes affectionately referred to as the P-spot. The perineal sponge is located between the vaginal canal and the anus, sort of just right under her perineum, hence the spot-on anatomical name. Anyway, you can stimulate the perineal sponge, or the PS spot, through the vagina or through the anus. You can stimulate the PS spot either from the front through the vagina or from behind through the anus, but it feels even better when it is stimulated by both at the same time. On top of that, this spot can even have its own orgasm. In addition to that, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system both come together at the anus. So anytime that an anus is being stimulated, it can feel really, really good, and it can actually induce a deep, almost trance-like state of super high arousal. So if you are not incorporating the anus into your sexual play while you're having vaginal penetration, you're potentially missing out on giving her the best sex of her life. And if you are invested in giving her the best sex of her life, I want you to write in the comments, hell yes. And that could be yes spelled with like 6 S's, or a U, or like yes, hell yes. Or heck, you don't have to cuss. Just because I cuss doesn't mean that you have to. You don't have to do everything that I do. But I would recommend doing like at least half of the things that I do, because they're fun. And I road tested them just for you and for science. Okay, that was why DP feels good for her, but why does it feel good for you? Well, number one, there's this like really hot, amazing, sexy, arousing thing that happens when women are being pleasured and feeling full and stuffed. That in and of itself, for me, is like a huge reason to experiment with this. If you can bring her to heights of pleasure she didn't know she could reach, then you are going to be legendary in her book, and you can bet every single one of her girlfriends is going to hear about what an awesome lover that you were. But on a real practical physical level, it feels good for you. She will feel tighter, firmer, and depending on what toy you're using or how big it is, it's going to create different sensations, maybe different pressure for you, might be touching you in different places that feels really good, especially if you play around with doing this in different positions. One of my favorite things to do is use a heavy metal butt plug. I'm gonna give you more on this in just a second, but the reason that this feels so good is that not only does it feel good for me because there's a butt plug, the heaviness feels good, so in any position that it's pushing down on that perineal sponge, it feels really good, and he can feel it too. Kind of hot. Long story short, DP feels great for both partners, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. So we can be referring to many different things when we say double penetration, but the most common variation is one thing inserted into the anus and one thing inserted into the vagina. Now, that could be you in her butt with a dildo in her vagina, a butt plug in her butt with you in her vagina, a butt plug and a dildo or two other toys, dildo and anal beads, a dildo that has two different things on it, you wearing a strap on and using your own penis in any combination. The list is effectively infinite. And not just that. Those are all examples of vaginal and anal double penetration, but there's also double vaginal penetration, often called DVP, or double anal penetration, which I suppose could be called DAP, although I don't think about double anal penetration very often because that is for advanced experts. Like, don't try this at home. These are trained drivers on a closed course level of expert. But let's say you want to try any of the above, DP, DVP, DAP, DDR. It will surprise no one, I think, to know that I'm amazing at Dance Dance Revolution. Different kind of double tap. Where were we? Let's talk about how to make DP happen at home for yourself if you are so inclined. Number one, you can expect it by now if you're a subscriber to this channel, and thank you, will be conversation, communication, letting her know what you want to do and why you want to do it. Especially if you share with her this video and you're like, hey babe, did you even know that you have a perineal sponge? I would like to pleasure your perineal sponge using all of my tools and getting to it from both the back door and the front door. What do you say? Hey, that's how I am a sex nerd though, so maybe your language will be different. All right, after conversation, the second most important thing is foreplay. Can I get an amen? If you are giving me a virtual amen, could you just give me a like? I will count that. Can I get a like? It's so 2020. Anyways, the reason that foreplay is so important is that if she is going to be able to handle additional things coming into her body, she's got only a limited amount of space. It's a finite body. A finite body. Hey. She's got a finite body. She needs to be really aroused if you're going to be stuffing a lot of stuff in there. There, I said it. Which actually brings me to step number 3, which is lubricant. You need lube anytime you're going to do butt stuff, really. Because the butt doesn't lubricate the way that the vagina does, you need lube. Well, more specifically, she does. More specifically, her butt needs lube. Now, there are 3 categories of lube: silicone, oil, and water-based lube. If you're using condoms, you can't use oil-based. If you're using silicone toys, you can't use silicone-based. If you're allergic to anything in any particular lube, you can't use that one. So water is almost always the safest bet. If you can't remember which one goes with which, just use a water-based lube, problem solved. If you're not using any props, toys, or condoms, I highly recommend a silicone-based lube because they tend to be thicker and they stay put, which just makes them easier to work with when you're doing butt stuff because you don't have to reapply as often. More on that in a billion other videos. Number 4 is condoms. Condoms are really great when you're doing butt stuff too, because butt stuff requires cleanup. Okay, now I'm not gonna get into the anus is actually like pretty clear, so is the rectum, usually not a lot of stored fecal matter in that area, but if you are going to be switching around from mouth to, oh my, the biggest, like most Jurassic Park era moth I have ever seen is fighting for its freaking life on a spider's web, like right off. I mean, this thing is prehistoric, as is butt stuff. All right, back to the subject at hand. Condoms are really, really helpful for butt stuff. Anytime that you're doing butt stuff, you cannot be switching from butt to vagina or butt to mouth. And that is where condoms come in super handy. If you use a condom on the toy, all you gotta do is rip the condom off, tie it up, cast it aside, and you have a perfectly clean toy to use in the other partner or put away in the drawer. If you use a condom on a penis, then you can pull that condom off, toss it out, and that penis can be sucked or immediately. No soap and hot water required. I think condoms are really, really, really great. Plus, they decrease the amount of friction by being really smooth, which can make butt stuff easier. You just throw a condom on your anal beads or on your butt plug or on your penis or even on your finger, and butt stuff is like suddenly a no mess cleanup situation. I feel right now like the lady in the aluminum foil commercial that would be like, no mess, you just throw out the aluminum foil after you cook your food in it. Like, similar idea, kind of really different application. Which actually brings me to number 5, which is select the proper toys. Anything that is going to go into a butt needs to have a base, because the butt is not a cul-de-sac like the vagina. The butt is a never-ending highway that eventually leads all the way up to the mouth. But actually, it's going to lead to the emergency room if you end up putting something in there that doesn't have a base. It can just get kind of lost. Ask any emergency room doctor that you've ever met what the craziest thing they've pulled out of someone's butt is. They all have a story. Bringing me to tip number 6, which is to start small. Butt stuff requires a learning curve. It's not just like off to the races, 0 to 60. You can start with a finger, a small butt plug, maybe working your way up to a larger butt plug or anal beads, all the way up eventually to a dildo with a base on it or a human member. Do people still use that word anymore? Is that member? And then finally, if you are bringing another person into the bedroom to be the other insertable in this situation, everything that I just said applies in addition to having really, really great conversation and communication beforehand, setting boundaries and consent, and also making sure that everybody is all in and ready to have an amazing time. Now, one challenge that is most common for the 3-person DP is the legs. Everybody's legs are kind of in the same area, right? Genitals, legs are kind of just, there's like leg soup happening. They're all commingling. If you are going to make this happen, I highly recommend that you have one man lie down flat with his knees bent over the end of a bed, have a woman straddle him, taking him into her vagina, and then have the third party standing next to the bed, and she takes him into her anus. Now, there are other varieties of this position that work, but I think if you focus on that one and finding what feels most pleasurable for all people involved, you will be good to go. And let me hop in here just to say, no, it doesn't make you gay to have sex with a woman while another man is having sex with her. Even if both of your penises are in her vagina and therefore touching directly, skin to skin contact, it doesn't make you gay unless you are gay, in which case you were gay before. This isn't gay. Also, you're having sex inside of a woman. I've never understood, no shame at all for whatever you believe. Honestly, you're welcome to believe anything, and you're welcome to leave as much nasty, gnarly, hateful commentary in this video at the end if you want. You totally can. I literally would never stop you. But it has never truly connected for me why having sex with a woman under any circumstances could ever mean that you were any less of a heterosexual man. I actually tend to think of this as like incredibly hot. The fact that 2 men are together inside working for this woman's pleasure, for her sexual expansion, for her joy, for her orgasm, like that is super sexy to me, and it doesn't have to be sexy to you. There are plenty of other ways to make it happen just using toys. Hell, you could even use household items like a big cucumber, vagina only, no base. But if you want to experiment with other people, I say go for it. It can be really fun, and you will maybe never ever see a woman so pleased and so satisfied than when she has got all of that up in there and everything is being stimulated. All those nerve endings are getting great, delicious, manly attention. If you liked this content, I have come up with a free guide, 3 never before seen sex techniques to wow her. The link is in the description. Go download it now. It's totally free, delivered as a PDF, complete with illustrations directly to your inbox so that you can have the best sex